Okay. Today we're going to start Pei Amid Beis. That's 80B. And we'll start from Taner Rabbanan. It's 1/3 of down on the page, probably. Taner Rabbanan. Jesus Srischama. Okay. And we thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And tomorrow's Rosh Chodesh, yeah. Tomorrow's Rosh Chodesh. So that's when we started 4 years ago. We started this year. So that's what we're holding. With Hashem, tomorrow night we'll make a...
Good morning.
Good morning, Ramesha. Make a celebration. To, have something after Ma'ariv. If anyone's in town.
Will it be Zoom?
We can.
Okay.
I don't know if the sushi makes it through the computer though. Okay. We start Taner Rabbanan. Taner Rabbanan, Ezus Rischama. What's a person that's a eunuch that's from birth? That's what it's called. It's Rischama. So, Kolshu ben Esrim Vlehevish de Saris. If he doesn't have two pubic hairs and he's already reached 20 years old, so then we say that he's a eunuch. If he doesn't have two pubic hairs when he's 13, we say, okay, so he's hasn't reached maturity yet. Not everyone is exactly so yekish that at 13 years old, they're already mature. It's coming a little late. But by the time he reaches 20, we say, no, this is not just late. This is not happening. So, then, if that's the case, then even if he has here after he's 20, we say that it's meaningless. We say that he's already been established that he's a eunuch. Now the only thing is that you also need, together with this, you also need simanim of a saris, not just the lack of hair. You also need the other simanim. What is that? Well, kol shein lezakan, he doesn't have a beard. Before we were talking about the pubic hair, this is his beard. Facial hair. Sari lakai, his hair is very thin. The sari machlik, his skin is smooth. Yeah, is that another description for no hair? That's what it seems like. So the hair on his head is lakai. He doesn't have hair on the rest of his body. Machlik means smooth. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Eimer Mishum Rab Yehuda ben Yoyer. Kol shein meimav malin v'tichas. His urine doesn't give off a steam. Some say that when he urinates, it doesn't make an arc, doesn't flow, it rather drips. Some say that the shechva zera, the semen is watery. That's how he puts it. Deicha. It's not, doesn't stick together. Less viscous. The urine is not doesn't spoil or sour like probably ammonia. Doesn't have that ammonium to it. If he bathes in the winter and his body doesn't give off a steam. So that's another characteristic of a eunuch. Reb Shimon ben Elazar mekol shekoilei lakei ve'nikar bein ish liisha. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that his voice, it's not clear if it's a male or female from the voice. Okay. It turns out that each one of these they're not really arguing. They're just giving an additional, they probably all agree. It's just each one is adding one more characteristic. Easily islandness, What's the same for a woman? A woman that was not developed. She's underdeveloped. Kol shi bas esrim v'lo beisaris. She's reached the age of 20 and doesn't have two pubic hairs. Now, even if the hairs grow after she's 20, we say that that's nothing. She's still an islandess. Yeah, and what are the signs of an islandess? Kol shein ladadim. She doesn't have breasts. And marital relations are difficult for her. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel kol shein la shipulei me'ayim kenashim. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel adds in that she doesn't have it's like a cushiony fat above her private area. Reb Shimon ben Elazar kol shekoilei avaveini keres bein ish leish. Shimon ben Elazar, who said the same thing by the Saris, says it by the islandess, that you can't tell a difference in the voice if it's a man or a male or female. Itmar, okay, all of that was a brisa, Taner Rabbanan. Where's the brisa? It's in the Tosefta in Shabbos. Now we have a statement of Amirai. Itmar was stated Simani Saris. You know that brisa that we said that there's signs of someone that's a eunuch? Well, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Achi Kulam. Rav Huna says that when is it considered that he's a real eunuch? He has to have all of them. And Rabbi Yechanan Amar Afila Bechanmem. Rabbi Yechanan says, no, even one of them is already a eunuch. That's a very important machlekes. That changes everything. Say, someone, the voice, or something in the urine, it doesn't give off steam or something, or doesn't smell. You'd say, oh, that's it. Doesn't have arc. You'd say, that's it. He's a saris according to Rabbi Yechanan. Well, the Gemara elaborates. If he has two hairs, then everyone agrees. If he has two hairs on his beard, on his face, then everyone agrees that he really would need all the other signs to turn him into a eunuch. However, but if he doesn't have any facial hair, then the question is, how many other signs does he need? The Gemara says, Rabba Baravua told the students in the yeshiva, Ainu Beber Rab Nachman, Ibasari Malahevel, Isavle Bras, or Brati, I think it says. There's two versions over here. Rabba Baravua, who's the father-in-law of Rab Nachman, tells to the students, he said, I guess probably in the mikveh or something, when you're bathing, check out Rab Nachman and see if his body gives off a steam. We said before, who was it that said that? It was Acher Maimrim. If he washes in the winter and his body doesn't give off a steam, then that means that he's a saris. So Rabbi Baravua is looking for a shidduch for his daughter. It's not like the shidduch calls that you get nowadays. They say, what type of person is he? Those days they asked, is he a eunuch? Much more basic questions. Yeah. You don't put that on the checklist. So check out if his body gives off steam. If his body gives off steam, then I'll give him my daughter. So come on, who's that following? That he's that he's looking for that characteristic as well. I must speak, Rav Huna. He needs every single characteristic. Why? Because he saw already his skin. He saw already this. Apparently, he didn't have hair on his skin. He's looking for everything. It says, Loi, Rav Nachman Sichi Diknavli. No, it's the opposite. He did have hair. He had some facial hair. And that's why we need to see everything else. You see, we said that the machlekes is if he has facial hair, then he needs all the other signs. Why is he looking for this sign to see if his body gives off steam, it's because he had facial hair. It's so. No, is that going to work? Is that going to work? Rabbi Yochanan afilu be'echad mehem. No, the opposite. Because he had facial hair, everyone agrees. Everyone agrees that you need all the signs, and that's why it would fit even with Rabbi Yochanan. It's only if he doesn't have facial hair that where Rabbi Yochanan says that you only need one of the signs. So he did have facial hair, so that's why he's looking for all the signs. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, this is one little piece of information about Reb Nachman that we didn't have. We didn't know this from. I mean, Reb Nachman is very common. Okay. Hasaris loicheletz lemiyabim v'chein alin eschulu. We finished off the Mishnah. We said that a saris does not do chalitza. Now, it's interesting Mishnah because the beginning of the Mishnah we had a machlaikas, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says that a sris chama, someone that's born like this, doesn't do chalitza. That was Rabbi Akiva's view. But a sris adam does. I mean, someone that was castrated does do chalitza. And Rabbi Eliezer said the opposite. He said that a sris chama does chalitza. When a sris adam does not. Then the Mishnah concludes, hasaris lecheletz v'leibiyam, and also an islandess. So, Katani Saris to Islandess. When it says these two, islandess and Saris, the Gemara does a comparison. Ma islandess bidei shamayim, just like the islandess was born like this, the woman that's sterile or underdeveloped, that was the way she was born. Saris bidei shamayim. Also, the eunuch was from the hands of heaven. That's how he was born. Katani Saris, I'm sorry, it was stomach Rabbi Akiva dam bidei adami and bidei shamayim like. Here we have an interesting Mishnah. We have a machlaikas, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. And then we have a stam at the end of the Mishnah, an anonymous piece, which is following Rabbi Akiva. Machlaikas v'achakach stam. Sounds like that's the halacha, right? That's halacha kastam. That's the rule. So the stam is like Rabbi Akiva that says that if it's a sris adam, then chalitza is performed, and if he's born like that, then chalitza is not performed. The shemayim like. If a saris did chalitza, then the woman is still eligible to a kayan, even though chalitza is like a get. But because she didn't need chalitza, so the chalitza was nothing, right? We're talking about a sris chama, following Rabbi Akiva. There's no requirement of chalitza. However, if the saris has relations with her, then she becomes asr to a kayan. Why? Because she had relations with her brother-in-law. And there was no mitzvah of yibam, so that's a prohibition. The Gemara says, "Time of the balahu." Why is she forbidden to a kayan? Because who had relations with her? The brother-in-law. The Gemara makes an assumption here that if it's someone else, loy. You see, this is a woman. She's a widow. Her husband passed away. Good morning, and she's waiting for yibam. She has a brother-in-law. We said that if she has relations with the brother-in-law, then because in this scenario, the brother-in-law was a eunuch, so she would become puzzle for a kayan. Because she had relations with a close relative that turns her into a zaina. But let's say she doesn't have relations with the brother-in-law. She has relations with some other stranger, some other person. Now, she's waiting to get married to the brother-in-law. Let's say there's another brother here that could have done yibam, not just this one. So,
is this the Mishnah here?
I'm right before the Mishnah. I'm going right to the top of the page on 81. So what happens now? Is she also considered a zaina? She's not really an adulteress because she's not married. She's a widow, but she is waiting. This comes out according to this. We said that when does the woman become a Zaina? That's if she lives with her brother-in-law, that's a eunuch that wasn't allowed to do Yibam. But let's say with a stranger, then she won't be puzzled. But Rav Hamnuna says yes, it's a kasha on Rav Hamnuna. So it says like, it's not a question on Rav Hamnuna. Who adin afil lachanami. The truth is that she would be puzzled to a kayin even if she had relations with someone else. She really is an adulteress. But I did the Tani Reisha B'didei, Tani Nami Seif B'didei. But the fact is, the Mishnah wasn't talking about other people. You can't bring a proof from here that, if it would have been someone else, she wouldn't have been an adulteress. We weren't discussing other people. We were only discussing a eunuch that does chalitza, that doesn't do chalitza. That's what we were discussing. So when we came to is what happens to her if Yibam is performed, we're still only discussing him. That wasn't part of the conversation. Someone else. Okay. Yeah, sometimes the Gemara reads into it more than what the Mishnah was saying. The Mishnah was only discussing the Saris, wasn't discussing others. Okay. Yeah. The Rif, in the back of the Gemara, there's what looks like another Gemara. It's the Rif, every Gemara in the back. You see, it looks like it's the same layout. But it turns out that the Rif cuts out all of the back and forth of the Gemara and just gives you the conclusion. But the way that the yeshiva study the Rif is they say, what did he take out? Why did he not quote Shmuel? Why did he not quote Rav? It must be, he doesn't pass him like that. So you learn from what he doesn't say of what he holds. Yeah. Talking about the shidduchim, that's how you have to read a shidduch resume. Why didn't they say that he's kind? They only said that he's smart. Why didn't they say that? Okay. That's how
they evaluate professors. He has a resume. You say, well, he did all these 500 things, but there's these 600 things he didn't do. So he can't be the guy that we want. Exactly this kind of reason.
Right. Okay, so an islandess that did chalitza, that the chalitza was performed to her. So what do we say? We say that that's nothing. She's still permissible to a kayan, right? But if she had relations with the yavam, then that's problematic because she wasn't supposed to do yibam. So she basically had relations with her brother-in-law, and it was not permissible. Time of the balua. What's the reason why she becomes prohibited to a kohen? Because she had relations with her brother-in-law, and it wasn't a mitzvah of yibam. Come on, who does this go like? Rabbi Naftali, you mentioned this yesterday. This the like Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda Hamar Islandess Zainahi. Obviously, if the whole problem here is because she had relations and that's what turns her into a Zaina, she becomes someone that had relations with a close relative, and that's why she's prohibited to a kayan. Sounds like if she wouldn't have had relations, she would have been permitted to a kayan.
Why is she prohibited to marry her brother-in-law? Because she was widowed or something?
She's a widow.
But
because she was never fully developed.
Oh.
So when it says that you have to establish the name of the brother, she would never be able to have children anyway. So it doesn't apply to her. So, but that would mean that she would be permissible to a Kohen. Naturally, she would be permissible to a Kohen, that a Kohen can marry an islandess. The problem is we had one opinion that holds that a Kohen is not allowed to marry an islandess. An islandess is considered a Zaina. Yeah, we had verses that say that.
Didn't we say that a woman who's like under, I guess, I don't know if the word's underdeveloped, but just very young, who can't have kids yet, she would be permissible to
Kohen Gadol.
a Kohen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is someone that will never have children. So obviously the Mishnah can't go like Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda would say she can't marry a Kayan anyway. Okay. We have a new Mishnah. Sris Chama Kayan. The eunuch. That's a Kohen. Shanasa Bas Yisrael. He marries a girl that's not a Kohenes, regular Jewish girl. Now, the Kohen has special benefits. He's able to eat Truma. Well, Machila b'Truma. This Kohen can feed her Truma. He gets Truma. He probably can't do the Avodah because he's not a perfect, probably is considered a mum. And I'm not sure exactly which part would be the mum, but it must be considered a mum somehow. I don't know.
It's a blemish.
Probably. She can, yes, eat Truma because she does get Truma. So, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon Aimrim, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say, androgynous Kayan, Shenasa Bas Yisrael, Machila b'Truma. An androgynous. Androgynous is a hermaphrodite. So he's both male and female.
Is that a Hebrew term specifically, or is it also
androgynous?
Greek? Yeah,
Probably Greek.
it sounds very Greek.
Words. Andrew means Zohar, and Janus or Dennis.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Hermaphrodite is from the Greek gods,
that's-
Hermes and Aphrodite. That's also male and female. Oh,
So they're both Greek.
they bring the origin. Uh-huh. So Andrew is a male, and Janus would be the family, the female, like Janus, like a genus, like a. So, if he marries a Jewish girl, which that's, as we're going to see soon, that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to marry a girl. See, in the Steichemet, is this somewhere over here? Steichemet one. Yeah, up there is Steichemet. Steichemet has a letter that an androgynous could make someone pregnant and could also become pregnant. Probably not at the same time, but with hormones this way or that way, they have both
Sperm
both
and,
features, but just smaller, a small miniature. So who's he supposed to marry? We're going to see soon that he should marry.
So he has a womb and can
Apparently. He's supposed to marry a woman because should marry a woman because otherwise it could be homosexual if he marries a man, which is theoretically possible.
so
But then that's two men,
2 women
possibly.
is the Rabbanan.
and two women and widows and rabbinic. Yeah, back to that Gemara before. Okay, so he did what he's supposed to. He marries a girl, and Machila b'Truma, she's allowed to eat Truma. Rabbi Yehuda says, Tumtum shenikra v'nimtza zachar la yachlitz meishu kasaris. But Tumtum, this was someone that was unclear what gender he was. But then apparently there's a skin that was fat that was covering, and then it tore, and we see that he's a male. Well, he shouldn't do chalitza because he's also a eunuch. I don't know. Now, Rashi adds in, if there's another brother. Sounds like if there is no other brother, then he should do chalitza. That's what it sounds like from Rashi. I didn't look into that, but I mean, just reading Rashi, that's what it sounds like. That in other words, Rabbi Yehuda is giving you preference here. The preference would go to the other brother, not to him. Androgynous naisei avalei nisa. An androgynous should marry a woman. but he should not become married. That means he should not.
Should marry or not?
Man.
He should not be married by a man.
Oh.
He should not become. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer says, maybe it's Rabbi Lazar. He says that it's actually a biblical prohibition for an androgynous to marry a man, even though they have the female characteristic as well. Yeah, this becomes an interesting. What's the prohibition of a man with a man? Is that because because there's a man, or because it's not a female? Well, this one is partially female. Yeah. Okay. Shita. The Gemara says that she can eat truma. This is obvious. She can eat truma. She's married. Bas Yisrael is married to a kohen. What's the problem? It says, well, it's not so simple because could have thought that when it says that a kohen can feed his wife truma, it says in that pasuk, it says miknas kaspa yelid beisai, someone that's born in his house is going to eat truma. Well, maybe it's only a wife that can have children that's allowed to eat truma, and this woman cannot have children. It's not this woman. This man cannot have children because he's the saris. So maybe he also can't cause a wife to have to eat truma because he also can't have children.
A man who cannot have children is a little more obvious, so to speak, as opposed to a woman. It's more concealed, I suppose. So I guess many times you would have like couples trying to have kids, and it turns out they can't. That's what's shown.
Right.
But in this case, they're still getting married.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, you see, you have to recognize that it's not people that can't have children.
Mm-hmm.
It's this. A lot of times, there's nothing visible. Here, we're dealing with something visible. That's we know he's a eunuch.
Right.
You know, you can see the signs. He's here. You see the. I mean. Okay. So Kamash Malan, that doesn't matter whether he can have children or can't have children. His wife is allowed to eat truma. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Aimer, androgynous. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say that an androgynous is it can also feed his wife truma. Amrei Shlakish machilim b'truma, v'in machilim b'chazav v'shaik. Shlakish says that we have to differentiate between truma and the chazav v'shaik. Chazav v'shaik are parts of the animal that come from a karban. No, they're gifts to the kohen. When someone brings a karban, so the kohen get a karban shlamim, the kohen gets the chazav v'shaik. That's the thigh and the chest.
Isn't the thigh something that we try to avoid to eat?
That's the back. This is the front.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the back too.
Yeah. So from a karban, although it's one second. Yeah, so it's not Lizifri Kuna. What do we say? Hashlamim. Yeah, so really, there was a gift from the karban that was given. The owners would eat part of it. Part of it was given to the kohen. So that part that's given to the kohen would not be. Not be given to his wife. Does that make sense? So we're referring to not as royal l'chayim, but that's a gift for the kohen that anyone can eat. This is specifically the karban. We're saying that she doesn't enter into that into that status.
So it's saying carbon is more fiduciary.
Yeah. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Af Machila v'Chas v'Sheik. Rabbi Yochanan says no. This is a regular marriage. We're talking about an androgynous. He's marrying a woman. It's a regular marriage. She's a regular wife. She's allowed to eat the Chaz v'Sheik. Okay, the Gemara has a question on Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish Maishna Chaz v'Sheik deraisa, Trumanami deraisa. What's the difference, Truma and Chaz v'Sheik? Is she considered a kohenes or married to a kohen or not? If she is, then let her eat both. And if she's not, then why is she eating one of them? Well, the Gemara says, we're dealing with Truma that's a derabanan. Why? Because it's after the time of the Beis Hamikdash. What would happen during the time of the Beis Hamikdash? Rish Lakish would say no. So what is the leniency here that an androgynous can feed his wife Truma? It's only because the Truma is not real Truma anyway. It's only rabbinic Truma. Why is it rabbinic? Because it's after the time of the temple. So what we meant when we said Chaz v'Sheik was not really Chaz v'Sheik. We meant even Truma at the time of Chaz v'Sheik would be forbidden. Truma during temple times would also be forbidden. That's what we mean. Mar says, well, Adatani ein machila v'Chaz v'Sheik. Instead of saying that she can't feed her Chaz v'Sheik, liflig listening b'dida, he should have said it like this. Why doesn't he say that there's a difference in Truma itself, if it's Truma derabanan or Truma deraisa? Where it says, that's actually what he said. Machila b'Truma b'zman hazeh derabanan. Machila b'zman Chaz v'Sheik v'afila b'Truma derabanan. That's actually what he meant. Now, there's one nuance over here that gets slipped by. Not all Truma. There's two ways of dividing Truma into categories. One is the time of the temple and after the temple. During the temple, it's biblical. After the temple, it's rabbinic. But then there's one other way of dividing it. One is that certain Truma is biblical, grain, wine, and oil. And then there's other types of truma, which is fruit and other trumas, that is rabbinic. So we have two levels of rabbinic. We have a rabbinic truma that's during the time of the temple, and we have rabbinic truma that's after the temple times. So it says like this, that even rabbinic truma during temple times, we would have to be strict because that's similar to the biblical truma, which is taking place at the same time. It's only after temple times when you don't have any biblical truma at all that will be lenient.
Yeah, there is no truma after the Beis Hamikdash. I mean, obviously before the Mishkan. After,
Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to have to get into that about what's taking place over here with the concept of truma after the temple times. Yeah, that we'll see in 2 pages. But meanwhile, this is what we're saying.
I think they did some like korbanos, like in between temples.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. Interesting.
Once they came into the land, they had truma.
Yeah.
After the land was divided, challah was immediate, and truma was after it was divided. I think that was the. I think the Gemara has a discussion. What about the dough that they brought in from before? There's a discussion about that.
Times sounds like a newspaper.
Temple times, right? The history class projects is you have to write a newspaper article as if you're there. Temple times.
Well, I guess the Kohans had all their duties in the Mishkan before the Beis Hamikdash was built.
Right.
So it makes sense that they still need it for the vote.
Right. Okay, so right now we have a discussion between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan regarding truma. We switched what we're discussing. Reish Lakish says that an androgynous wife can only eat rabbinic truma, and Rabbi Yochanan says no. she can eat biblical truma. It's a real marriage. Rabbi Yochanan says no. She can eat even chazav v'sheik, which also means that she can also eat biblical truma. Amali Rabbi Yochanan l'Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan tells to Rish Lakish, "Misavris truma b'zman hazeh d'Rabbanan." You're telling me that she's not really married to this fellow because he's an androgynous, and therefore the only truma that she's allowed to eat is rabbinic. Do you think that truma nowadays is rabbinic? Is that what you're saying? So Amalayan says, yeah, that's my opinion. Truma nowadays is rabbinic. Shani Shaina, because I teach igul be'igulim ayla. Okay. Now what this means is are you familiar with the concept davar shabaminion? Davar shabaminion. It's in your idea. Yeah, you had it in davar shabaminion. It's a big discussion. It's this week's parsha in Likutei Torah also. Why the Jewish people are counted? Because when something is counted, it doesn't become nullified. That gives it strength. So there's this statement that davar shabaminion like batal. Something that's counted doesn't become nullified. Davar shabaminion. An example of that would be eggs. They're sold by the dozen. It's not sold by weight. So each one becomes something significant.
Mhm.
If one missing, it's like, where's that missing piece? Where's the one? So each one has a certain value, importance that we say, oh, you can't just say that you dropped it into a whole thing and it's batal. You can't, what's batal? Batal means that it gets like absorbed in everything else. But this is so important, it can't become nullified.
Mhm.
Okay, so now what happens if we have cakes, fig cakes of truma? Now, yeah, igule, the wheel of figs, yeah. So let's say I have truma becomes batal 1 in 100. Kalayim is batal 1 in 200, but truma is batal 1 in 100. So let's say a fig cake of truma fell into 100 chulin. So well, it should be batal. There's just one slight problem. The problem is that, but fig cakes are sold by number. So it really shouldn't be batal. So Rish Lakish says like this, that I say that igul bigulam ayla. I say that it's batal. You know why it's batal? Because it's truma is only rabbinic. Really, it shouldn't be batal. But because it's rabbinic, it's batal. So Amarle, Rabbi Yochanan says to him, that has nothing to do with this. You're bringing me a proof that truma is only rabbinic from the fact that there's a Mishnah that says igul beigulim ayla means batal. That has nothing to do with our discussion. He says, I hold that even slices of, we're going to see, slices of meat of a karban are also batal. And I'm not saying that that's rabbinic. And the reason is because es shedarka limne shenino. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Mi savers kol shedarka shenino, es shedarka limne shenino. Okay, this takes us one step further. We're going to see in a moment that Reb Meir has a statement. The statement of davar shabaminion like batal is a statement from Reb Meir. Now, there's two ways of learning that. There's a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish how to learn it. Rabbi Yochanan learns it that the only thing that is a davar shabaminion, let's say for us eggs. I've never seen eggs being sold by weight. At least nowadays, I don't know. Maybe on the farms, maybe you can get a basket of eggs or something. But in our stores, it's never seen. Now, something that's never ever sold by weight or by some sort of estimation or differently is called es shedarke, something that's always counted. However, bananas, different stores, they catch you on this. they tell you it's this amount of cents by pound, and there's this per thing. Sometimes these vegetables are things it looks like, oh, that's a good price. Turns out that it wasn't by pound, that was for each one, or something. So those things that are sometimes sold by item and sometimes sold by weight, that Reish Lakish says is also not batal. So in order for Reish Lakish to say that igul be'igulim is batal, it has to be because of another reason. It has to be because it's rabbinic. For Rabbi Yochanan to say that it's batal, he could say it's biblical. Why? Because he says that the only thing that's not batal is something that's never ever sold by weight. It has to be, in order for it to be not batal, the category of davar shebeminyan for Rabbi Yochanan is so exclusive. It's so limited to only things that are never sold. So for him, he can always categorize everything as biblical and say it's still batal anyway, because it's once in a while on the farm it's sold by weight. So he says even pieces of meat is batal from karbanos. Why? Because he says Eshedar Kalim Shnina. Gemara says, Mahi, what are we talking about? We go to the background of this whole discussion of Eshedar Kalimnes or Kol Shedar Kalimnes. Kol is the more inclusive one. Es means is the limited to only that's specifically sold by weight, by number, and never sold by weight or other thing. Ditnan, we have a Mishnah. Misha Hayalei Chavile Tilsan, someone that has bundles of fenugreek. Shal Kalaya Karim. Fenugreek is the spice, and it's Kalaya Karim. The problem is that it grew in a vineyard. In a vineyard, you're not allowed to have anything else grow. If it does grow there, it becomes forbidden not only to eat, but even forbidden to have benefit from.
Because you can't sow your fields with it.
Right. It's a mix. So yidlaku, it has to be burnt. Nisarva ba'acheres becomes problematic. Say this bundle got mixed in with other bundles, because they're pulling it out of the field, they put it into the big pile. One of them came from the vineyard. It says Kulan Yidlaku Div Rab Meir. Rab Meir says none of them are batal. They're all. It's not batal, and therefore they're all forbidden. Chum say no. Yalla Becher Masayim. They say it's batal in 1 in 200. That's the way kalayim is batal. Milk and meat was 1 in 60, right? The amount that would give it a flavor. Usually with treif, also we say the amount that would give a flavor is 1 in 60. Certain things we say is 1 in 100. That's truma, and kalayim is 1 in 200. So, but the Chum say this is going to be batal. Why did Reb Meir say it's not batal? 1 in 200 should be batal. It should be good. Well, Shahir Reb Meir Omer Kol Shedar Kelimnis Mekadesh. Anything that's counted, Shedar Kelimnis, sanctifies. Over here, that means that it considers it prohibited. Considers it's prohibited. The entire pile is prohibited. And the Chachamim say no. There's only specific items that are so unique and so special that those are the ones that are not batal. But just because it's sold by number, that's not going to make it that it's so chashuv, so important. Rabbi Kiva and Meshiva, Rabbi Kiva adds one more. Eluhain, what are they? It's a goizei perech, a certain type of walnuts. Rimani badan, a certain type of pomegranates. V'chavi estumas, a closed barrel of wine. Chilfei tarden, some sort of what are tarden again?
Beets here, shoots of beets.
Oh yes, beets. Well, v'kolchei kruv, certain type of kruv is cabbage, right? V'dalas Yevamos, and the Greek gourd. Rabbi Kiva Meisav af kikar shel balabayas. Rabbi Kiva adds also loaves of home-baked bread. Also, those are also unique. Royin la'arla, arla l'klayakarim, klayakarim. Those things that could be arla, which means those are the ones that grow on trees, that could be arla, that would be prohibited as arla and never nullified. And those that are Klaya Kerem would go under that category. Rabbi Yochanan savar es shadar kalim neshnino. Rish Lakish amar kol shadar kalim neshnino. So now we have a machlekes. When Reb Meir said kol shadar kalim neshnino, what did he mean? Did he mean something that's always sold with no exception, always sold by number with no exceptions? That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, which is a lenient opinion. Why? Because something that's once in a while sold by weight would be nullified. Or do we say the opposite? Something that's sometimes sold by number is already not batal. That's a strict opinion. It's much more inclusive. So Rish Lakish, that has a stricter opinion about what is not batal, he says that truma, the reason why truma is batal is because it's only rabbinic. He uses that other lenient side because truma is rabbinic. Rabbi Yochanan says that truma is biblical, and so he says, so why do we have cases that it's batal? He says that's because he has a lenient view on what's considered important, and he has much less things are important because things that are sold sometimes by weight are also batal, even if they're sometimes sold by number. Okay. Let's go further. My chatich, this is a big siggy. We get stuck in the middle. We have to start over. Yeah. My chaticha. We mentioned Rabbi Yochanan says, I hold even a chaticha is batal. A slice. Chaticha is a slice of something, slice of meat. The Tanya, we have a brisa. Chaticha shel chatas tmeya shenesarba b'meya chaticha shel chatas tahiras. If you have a piece of a carbon that's tamei, gets mixed in with 100 pieces of meat of ones that are tahar, that are pure. The ones that are pure, you can eat. The one that's not, you can't eat. The problem is you don't know which one is which. Also, a piece of the lechem apanim, a slice that got mixed in with 100 slices of bread of other lechem apanim, but that's one of them is tamei and one is tar. And the 100 are tar. We say tala, it's batal. Rabbi Yehuda Imer like tala. Rabbi says it's not batal. Rabbi Yehuda's view is easy. It's not a complicated view. He holds anything that's the same type is not batal. He says that instead of saying that it's nullified, we say that it strengthens itself. It's the opposite. Especially here, both items here are karbanos. One of them just happens to be tamei. It's min b'minei. Min b'minei on two levels. It's the same type, both bread or both meat, and it's both a carbon. Lechem apanim are carbon, so it's quality, both a spiritual quality and also the material, the item. Aval chaticha shel chatas teresh nesav me'es chaticha shel chulin. What about this? This is a carbon with chulin. The carbon is tar. The chulin is also tar, but one's a carbon. It gets mixed in into 100. Everyone says it's not batal. Now, the reason why we say it's not batal is because you have a simple solution. You don't need to do bittul here. You can just give it to someone that's a kayan, and the kayan can eat it. You don't have to come on to the bittul. Now, the truth is the sale price is going to be lower because you don't have the same market. Something that you have to sell to a Kohen only, it's a very limited market, limited customers. So the sale price goes down. So, but that we consider that a minor loss, and we say that's not a problem. So we don't say that it's batal, and we just say let a Kohen eat it because it's all tar. It's just the question is, do we have to consider it sacrificial meat? Do we have to consider it lechem apanim bread? We'll consider it lechem apanim and a kayan will eat it. It's no problem. Ketani miyas. Nevertheless, we taught reisha tala. We said that it's batal. So that was what we were talking about from Rabbi Yochanan. That Rabbi Yochanan said that I even hold that slices of meat are batal, even though Reish Lakish would only say that if it's rabbinic. Rabbi Yochanan says, see, even something that's clearly biblical is also batal. So Amar Reb Chia B'Rei Rav Huna ben Imucha. The way Rish Lakish would learn this, he would say that meat dissolved. So it wasn't considered anymore kol shadar kelimna, something that's sold by item, because it dissolved, it fell apart. So the Gemara says, Yihachi, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda that says that it's not batal? Says, oh, that's easy. Rabbi Yehuda tameid, amar min b'min elei batal. Okay. Just a little bit more. I don't know where we're gonna have to go back. So, what comes out? What would happen according to Rish Lakish if it wasn't dissolved, if it didn't fall apart? Laitala, then it wouldn't be batal. Now the Gemara has a question. You had two cases in that brisa. One was if it was tamei with tahar carbon. The next one was carbon with chulin, and you said one of them was batal, one of them wasn't batal. Adatani aval chaticha shel chatas teresh and asav mea chaticha shel chulin teresh laitala. But they say it's not batal. Why? Because you just give it to a kohen to eat. Niflik v'nisni bedida. The Gemara likes to do this. Why, when you're giving a contrast, do you have to take a contrast from somewhere far out? You can make a contrast in the same case that we said. There's two possibilities: either it dissolved or it didn't dissolve. You don't have to reach for another case to tell me that it's not batal. Gemara says, we'd rather talk about things that are tahar, because over there we have a special chiddush. Okay, let's leave it over here. We'll have to go back over that.